Welcome to or welcome back to We Are Wool People. My name is Ailsa and on this channel we talk about my life as a knitter in Australia. I would like to welcome you all here today, especially all the new people, for my very first What I Knitted in the Year video. I started this channel in about March 2024 and I have in front of me over there everything that I've knitted since March 2024. There are 17 things here and a couple of things that I've given away, but without further ado, let me start. I'm going to rank them a score out of 5 for enjoyment of the knit and a score out of 5 for how much I've actually worn the item. And before I get going, I'm going to change my glasses because I don't like these ones. I'm going to put these ones on, right. That's better. Okay, let's go. Starting from the least successful through to the most successful. And I don't think there's any guesses about what one that one's going to be. Okay, but least successful. Starting with, this isn't in order of how I knitted them, this is in order of how they've come out. Earlier in the year, I knitted this guy. This is the Levitate Wrap by My Favourite Things. And it's not one of my favourite things. I knitted this out of the recommended yarn, which is Isia Trio and Isia Eco Soft. I bought this yarn in Sunspun in Melbourne, and oh, my puppy's coming, come in. It was such beautiful yarn that I actually didn't really want to knit it. As I was knitting it, I was thinking, oh, I'm wrecking this beautiful yarn. And you know what? I really was, because this thing is horrible and I don't like it. I don't know if it's a question of gauge, if it's a question of design, if it's just the fact that it's just too oversized, but I would never wear this out of the house. I have worn it working from home and it is like a snuggly, almost like a dressing gown piece, but for yarn that was so beautiful and for a pattern that I was really, really looking forward to having in my wardrobe, this was a huge disappointment. I would give this knit a 2.5 out of 5 for enjoyment of the knit, and I would give it 2 out of 5 for the wearability of the garment, making this one my lowest ranking knit for the year at 4.5 out of 10. But I haven't completely given up, because in 2025 I'm going to make a different wrap sweater. I'm not 100% sure which one yet. I might make the Rebecca Chloe one, not sure yet. My next least favourite knit for 2024 is unfortunately another one that I was really, really looking forward to having and really looking forward to making, and that is my Pohjola by Sari Nordland. I'll show it to you up close. Whilst I love my colour choices and I really did actually enjoy the knitting of this, I can't wear it. It has one of those chest bubbles, and when I lift my arms up it bunches up in the chest. Now, I don't think it's a problem with the pattern. I actually think that it's a 100% me problem, because I think that there are some short rows in the pattern that are put in after the yoke patterning, and I didn't put those in. And I also think that I made the wrong size. I think I made a size too small. So I would give this knit, I knitted this in Pirate Pearl Blackbeard, in yarn that I bought at the Bendigo Sheep and Wool Show in 2024 in July, especially for this project. And it does seem a shame to have wasted this beautiful yarn on a project that I won't wear. So what I think I'm going to do is knit in 2025, I'm going to knit the Pohjola again in a more appropriate yarn, and I'm going to find another project that will do this beautiful merino silk blend yarn justice. I would actually give the enjoyment of the knitting of this a 4 out of 5, but the wearability of it is only like a 2 out of 5, giving this a total of 6 out of 10. Number 3. Again, the reason this is not higher up on the rankings is yarn choice. This is the Alma Cardigan by Priscilla Cardigan that I completed quite recently, and I've spoken about this many times on videos. When I went to the Bendigo Sheep and Wool Show or the Australian Sheep and Wool Show in Bendigo in July, these cardigans were everywhere and they all looked fantastic. They were being sold as a kit from Louis and Lola in this beautiful merino possum blend, and I didn't buy the kit because of the expense mostly, and I really wanted to make the cardigan work in this yarn combination, which was very cost effective. This is Bendigo Woolen Mill Luxury 8 ply and Bendigo Woolen Mill Prism in a colour Mystic. Now, I've never done colour work before using a colour changing yarn, where you don't have to change colours, you just let the yarn do its thing, and I really did enjoy that. It made it really very easy and a lot less ends to weave in. But I think that the superwash nature of this yarn meant that the resulting garment stretched a real lot when it was blocked. I did steek this, well, it's a steeked cardigan, but because it was superwash, I had to actually machine reinforce the steek, and I covered the steek in a grosgrain ribbon. I'll just come up close and show you to stop it from unraveling. That worked quite well, but I have to say I don't think that I'm going to get much wear out of this. The collar is really rolling, which is something that I'm going to fix, because at least then the chances of me wearing it will be improved. But to be honest, this style of kind of grandpa-ish cardigan with the very distinctive and statement colour work on the bottom, it's not really my style, and I don't think I'm going to get much wear out of this. However, I really did enjoy the knitting process, and it's a lovely pattern. There are lots of fun details in this pattern, including a tubular cast-ons, some mosaic style knitting of the bands, this fantastic corrugated rib on the bottom, which I love, and all in all, I would probably give this knit like a 4.5 out of 5 for knitting enjoyment. However, I think that in terms of wearability, for me anyway, I would give it a 3. So this guy, 7.5 out of 10, the Alma Cardigan by Priscilla Cardigan. My next one is a sleeveless top, and it's a tie at 7.5 because I felted it. I knitted this, which is the Roselund top by Sari Nordland. I knitted this earlier in the year, and actually this is the knit that made me start this channel. As I was considering making this project, I was watching a lot of YouTube videos, and I thought, oh, I'm knitting something that's a bit interesting, then I might start a YouTube channel, and I did. Anyway, so this guy is the Roselund top by Sari Nordland. Magnificent knit. I really enjoyed it, and I knitted this in a horrible yarn from Spotlight called Nubu. It's actually been discontinued, which is a bamboo viscose blend or lyocell or something like that. Horrible yarn, really slippery, splits, murder on your hands, but worth it for the result, because I really did super enjoy knitting this, and the colour matched a top that I wore it with perfectly, and I wore this to my aunt's 80th birthday party, which a group of us, big family, we all went to the Rocks for the weekend. We had a great time back in April this year. I really have got very pleasant memories of that weekend when I think about this knit, when I look at this knit. But since then, it's actually been in the washing machine and through the dryer, and it's really shrunk, and it's very tight on me now. So I would give this knit, in terms of enjoyment of the knit, 5 out of 5. It was quite challenging to keep track of the row count because it's knitted from the top down, and I love a challenge, so that's why I really did enjoy it. And you get a lot of bang for your buck in this really beautiful, impressive set of motifs. Sari Nordlund is a master of the statement cabling and the statement motifs on her. So this, 5 out of 5 for knitting, and now it was 5 out of 5 for wearability until it shrunk, and now it's only about a 3 out of 5. Sari Nordlund's Roselund top. Very cheap knit. Probably got out of that for less than $20. Next one, another sleeveless knit. This is my Jacques Collar by Suzanne Muller. I'll show it to you up close because it's a bit hard to see. This is knit entirely in fisherman's rib, and it's a vest of sorts, except it doesn't have any sides, so it's more like a long dicky. I'm not going to put it on because it's about 30 degrees and that would be just too hot. I knitted this in Bendigo Woolen Mill alpaca from Deep Stash. I've had this yarn for years, and even though it looks black on camera, it's not black. It's actually this very inky navy with like an olive green background heather. It's actually a really beautiful, kind of ambiguous, mysterious colour. I really like this yarn. This knit I wore quite a lot of, even though I kept saying on the channel it's unexpected with the open sides, but I found that I could belt it over the top of sort of really loose wool blend pants, and it sort of gave off a kind of Charlie Chaplin sort of look, which probably is not very fashionable, but I liked it anyway. I will say this knit kicked my ass. I learnt a lot about what I don't know about knitting by making this simple and quite deceptively simple vest. And whilst I really enjoyed it, I had to rip back and restart many times due to you have to pay a lot of attention to whether you're on the right side or the wrong side while you're knitting the neckline and the shoulder part of this vest before you get to the point where you're just knitting back and forth, and it was really challenging. The result, however, very pleasing, and I have got quite a lot of wear out of this top. The Jacques Collar by Suzanne Muller, I give it a 3 out of 5 for enjoyment of the knit, but a 4.5 out of 5 for the wearability of the finished object. Giving this one 3 and 4.5, 7.5 out of 10. Moving along. This is another waistcoat that I knitted as a test knit for Susanna Cartnan, Sana & Co. This is going to be appearing in the Liner magazine Finnish Knits publication that's coming out in January. This is called the Vakka Vest. It's a basket weave vest. It's quite oversized. I did mention on the video that I made where I revealed this that this knit gives off a really beautiful, trendy, sort of light academia vibe. There's a lot of versatility in this pattern. It works really well with jeans and with loose trousers, but it also works really well with dresses and skirts. In the Instagram page, they've paired it, which is knitted in this exact same colour, they've paired it with a floral dress, and it looks absolutely beautiful. I think that there's a real lot of versatility in this pattern, and it was a really fun knit. It was quite challenging too around the neckline, because I think this isn't necessarily that unusual in vests, but you split at the underarm, or join rather, at the underarm before you've finished making the increases for the neckline. So the neckline itself was actually lower than the underarm join, and that was actually quite challenging then in the pattern. But the pattern itself was meticulously written and beautifully designed, and I really did enjoy this test knit for Susanna. I knitted this in the Great Ocean Road La Bella, which is a alpaca and merino blend, a beautiful, luxurious, soft yarn. This one is actually the natural colour of the animals, and it's called Rose Grey. Beautiful, soft, squishy yarn, and I would definitely knit with that yarn again. The distinguishing feature of this pattern is the basket weave stitch, but also it's got a really lovely cable detail down the underarm, or underneath the arm, which really sets it apart, and a split hem, and the cable flows beautifully into the rib of the split hem. It's very, very considered and a gorgeous pattern. I gave this pattern a 3.5 out of 5 for enjoyment of the knit, and a 4.5 out of 5 for the wearability of the item, giving it a total of 8 out of 10. Vakka Vest by Priscilla Cardigan. Oh wait, don't throw that down there. Okay. Right. Now we're heading into the high distinctions of the patterns I made for 2024. I think I'm going to sneeze. If I do, excuse me. My next two are the same pattern that I knitted twice. The first one is the Claire Vest by Mochi Knits. This knit was all over the YouTube channels in the Northern Hemisphere for summer. A lot of these were made. I made mine in Knitting for Olive Pure Silk in the colour cream, and it was also a really enjoyable knit. The only thing about this is that I've made it quite cropped. I don't know why. I think I just measured, went against the pattern measurements, and it's quite wide. So it's got a very oversized fit, which suits the summer because, it gets really hot here. But I think if I really had my druthers, as my English teacher used to say, I would have knitted this a little bit longer. I could knit another one. It didn't take very long, even though it does have the tiny fine gauge on the very, very fine 4-ply fingering weight pure silk yarn, which was okay to knit. People do have trouble with it because the cellulose fibres aren't very giving, and it does put a lot of pressure on your hands. I found it okay, but I really also did enjoy this knit. The distinguishing feature about this is, I think, the incredible, which I've mentioned before as well, incredible armhole trim. The way that the design gets you to pick up along the edge and knit this very clever, simple, neat armhole trim is what really sets this knit apart. It's the finishing in these really simple knits that give them the sing, isn't it? But I really did love this knit. I then had some yarn in stash that I bought in Japan years ago. I can't remember what it is. It's a linen wool blend, and I'll put it up on the screen. And I made another one in this really nice kind of oatmeal colour. But for this one, what I did was I actually put some bust darts down the centre of the two fronts to give it a bit of waist shaping and to give it a bit of shaping in the bust area. And that was a success. Having said that, because it's actually a wool linen blend, it's very hot for summer. I wouldn't be able to wear it, past December in Australia. But it does have its value for a trans-seasonal piece as you're heading into summer, and certainly I think it would also have value later on as we're heading into autumn. Again, a very light academia vibe, and I did really enjoy this knit. Let me show you the armhole trim again. You're going to see this armhole trim a few more times now, heading into my favourite knits. Look at the armhole trim. It's fantastic. It just makes it look completely store-bought, if that's your goal. Claire Vest by Mochi Knits. Both of these get a 4.5 out of 5 for the enjoyment of the knit, and 4 out of 5 for the enjoyment of the wearing. So both of these, 8.5 out of 10. Okay, my next guy is the Oxford Pullover or Oxford Jumper by Fable Knits. This is a real statement piece, as you can see. Very, very, very bright red. I knitted this in yarn that I bought from Obsession Yarns, which is I think it's a cotton alpaca blend. I'll put it in the description. Very fluffy, almost a boucle texture, and I hand dyed this yarn. I used to be a dyer in a previous life, and I used to love dyeing red. It was one of my favourite colours to dye. This particular colour was one of my favourite reds, and so I dyed all this yarn myself and made myself a Oxford jumper. This pullover is very, very a statement pullover with its huge dramatic leg of mutton sleeve that's actually almost bigger than the body of the jumper. And when I first knitted it, I thought that it was a bit out there for me and I wasn't sure how much I was going to wear it. But in the end, I did wear it quite a bit, and I did really enjoy wearing it, in fact. It was a bit of a conversation piece, and people did use, well, I wore it to a few knitting groups. I wore it to Worldwide Knit in Public that I went and knitted in a pub in locally, and a lot of people made comment about it. I also wore it into Sunspun when I bought the yarn for my Levitate Wrap, and it drew some comments in the yarn store as well, which, you know, is nice, isn't it? If you go to all the effort, it's nice for it to be recognised. But I did enjoy this knit, and I am looking forward to wearing this again in winter 2025. This one, the wearability of it, I would give it a 4.5 out of 5. The enjoyment of the knit, I'm not going to lie, there's a massive mistake in this pattern. The designer goes to an enormous amount of trouble, and it's really appreciated to explain how and where to do the increases for the leg of mutton sleeve. She talks about not keeping your shoulder seam quite short, not starting the leg of mutton sleeve on the tip of the shoulder where you might imagine it to start, but to start it a little bit higher up on the collarbone. And that was really appreciated, and that level of detail was amazing. And then later on in the pattern, it fails to tell you to join in the round and knit down. It's almost like there's a whole chunk of the pattern that was missing when the PDF was published. I didn't mention it to her or message her about it, the designer about it, because the pattern's been out there for years. A lot of people have made it. I cannot imagine that I'd be the only person to notice that there's this enormous part of the pattern missing. But having said that, I worked it out. It's fairly obvious. If you are an experienced knitter and you've knitted the top front and the back front, and then you know that you have to join in the round to knit the rest of the jumper down, well, you know, you can work it out. And I did work it out, and I finished it. So, in wearability of the jumper, 5 out of 5. Enjoyment of the knit, 4 out of 5. Not for a beginner, because you have to work out how to knit it yourself. Giving this what? 9.5 out of 10? 9 out of 10? I don't know, 8.5 out of 10. I don't know, my maths isn't that great. Okay, next one. We're getting up towards my favourite knits now. Is another pullover, and this one is the Paul Sweater by Moreka Knits. I knitted this in yarn from Deep Stash. Again, what a bonus that was. I knitted this in Moon Sock from Life in the Long Grass, yarn that I bought when I went to Japan in 2019. Yeah, before the pandemic, we went to Japan on a family holiday, and I bought this in Walnut. I don't think it was Tokyo. I think it was either Osaka or Kyoto. Can't really remember. Wherever Walnut is in those places, if it's still there. I bought it as a kit for a different cardigan, and then I didn't keep the packaging that it came in and put the yarn in my yarn stash, and then subsequently completely forgot what cardigan the kit was for. So I had these 4, possibly 5 skeins of this Life in the Long Grass Moon sock sitting marinating in the yarn stash for many years. And I was really happy to get it out and make this Paul sweater, which was extremely heavily influenced by the YouTube Mel from Mel Makes Things. She knitted a Paul sweater earlier in the year, and she's an absolutely beautiful knitter. I like watching her podcast or her YouTube channel as well. So I copied, and I made a Paul sweater, which I've worn a real lot. Because I was a bit hamstrung by the amount of yarn I had, it is a little bit cropped, and the sleeves probably a little bit shorter than the pattern recommends. I also held this with a strand of mohair silk blend from Kremke yarns. I think it's called Kremke Soul Wool, or the silk mohair blend. Beautiful yarn, which I bought from, I don't know, I think Skein Sisters in Sydney. This was an entirely new construction for me because it started with the panel for the left and the right back that is grafted in the centre. Can you see the little seam in the centre? And then picked up across the tips of the shoulders to bring for each side on the front, and then picked up as well along the back for the back panel. And then I think the stitches are held live and they are actually used as part of the sleeve stitches. The construction of this is absolutely beautiful, and it was a very, very enjoyable knit. This one, 9 out of 10, 4.5 out of 10, 4.5 out of 5 for both the enjoyment of the knit and the wearability of the garment. The colour is rose gold, I think, and it's just absolutely beautiful. This has got a really weighty but velvety kind of texture. It's almost got an oily hand, if you know what I mean by that. It's the silk content that gives it that weight and that luster and that lovely feel. It's a very luxurious, beautiful garment to wear, and I like this one a lot. 9 out of 10. My next one was the Dark Horse of 2025. This one is called Tino, the Tino sweater, knitted in Jody Long, Alba, and the name of the jumper is Tino. This project was inspired very heavily by a sample that they have on display at the Wool Inn in Penrith, and I knitted it with exactly the same yarn. I managed to knit this jumper modified for my very, very short arms and very short body in 3 balls of this yarn, which was absolutely such a coup, I thought. And as I was knitting it, I wasn't sure how much wear I'd get out of it, but in the end I found this to be one of the most versatile, really fun knits to wear in winter. I mentioned in the podcast that I made, or in the episode that I made about this jumper, that it really suits cows, particularly those made with colour changing yarn. And I found an old scarf that I'd knitted out of a Noro yarn many years ago and pulled it out of the cupboard and wore it with this when I went up to the knitting retreat, the Knitters Guild knitting retreat in August, and I really enjoyed it. I thought it looked great. I wore it with a pair of coated black trousers and over the knee riding boots, which I don't really necessarily like skinny jeans. I don't wear them much. I don't wear jeans much at all. I find them uncomfortable, but I think that kind of look was quite stylish. I thought I looked pretty good that weekend. And so I've found since then that I've worn this jumper quite a lot. It has a little garter stitch detail down the centre front and also in the centre back, and it has a split hem with really great detailing down the side of this split hem. It slants towards the body. Very flattering knit, and something that there are only like about 3 projects of this on Ravelry, and I'm surprised because it was a really enjoyable knit, and I'd knit this again. It would also suit felted tweed, Rowan felted tweed, which is one of my favourite yarns. So this Jody Long Alba I think is a dupe for Rowan felted tweed, and it's quite a bit more cost effective than that. It's a bit less pricey. It's a lovely colour. It's a beautiful kind of clear aqua with these electric blue flecks through it. I really did enjoy knitting the Tino jumper. 4.5 out of 5 both for the knitting experience and the wearability, giving it a 9 out of 10. Next one. Now this knit I didn't actually knit it in 2024, but it was sitting unworn and almost a complete fail in my knitting pile, and it was a real shame because this was a kit that I bought from the Boatneck. I used to think it was the museum, but it's not the museum. I bought it from the Boatneck website, where Pernille, who featured on one of the Fruity Knitting podcasts a couple of years ago, had mentioned that she sells the kits for these yarns, for these projects rather, and the yarn comes from bunnies that she actually has on her Angora rabbit farm. Amazing, right? So a real labour of love, the kit for this project. And this is the Blue Mist from the Boatneck website. But this was sitting in my pile of unwanted knits because the sleeves were too short and the whole thing was cropped, which I ended up keeping, but I did unravel the sleeve cuffs, knit them down a few more centimetres and finish them off. And I was able to wear this jumper quite a few times, and it's very, very beautiful. The colour work yoke, it's all in the colour changes, it's all in the colour of the yarn, but it is just magnificent how it does actually mist and fade and blend into the centre of the colour work. It's also textured, there's quite a few pearl stitches in there. It's colour work, but it's not Fair Isle, it's very distinctive, and it was a really beautiful knit. This guy now, at the beginning of the year, would have been given like a 4 out of 10, and now it's a 9 out of 10 as well. 4.5 for the knitting and 4.5 for the wearability of it. Gorgeous. This is the Blue Mist. My next one is another 9.5 out of 10. This is the Poetria by Sari Nordland. I adore everything about this knit. Every single thing about it was magnificent to knit, and it is an absolute joy to wear. I'll come up close and show you those beautiful, beautiful motifs. This was knitted in a combination of Holstgun Coast and an incredible baby Suri alpaca silk blend from Blackwattle Fibres. The colour of the Coast is called Putty, and the Blackwattle Fibres, I think it's called Dove Grey or something like that. This thing probably weighs 150 grams. Let me just pretend I've woven that end in. 150 grams, I reckon. It's so light, but because of the alpaca and the halo on it, it just feels so unbelievably soft. It is true luxury wearing this magnificent knit. Again, Sari Nordland is a master of these really intricate pattern motifs. I don't think there's any cabling in this at all. I think it's all just lace work, and I absolutely loved it. This pattern has got, there's like a set of items that are made in this motif. There's some socks, and there's a scarf, and there's a different pullover that's got the motifs down the sleeves as well. This one's just got plain stockinette sleeves, but I would knit this pattern again and again and again. This is Sari Nordland's Poetria, and I give this guy a 9.5 out of 10. It was absolute joy to knit, and I've worn it a real lot. I feel very special when I wear my Sari Nordland Poetria. All right, next, for something completely different, we have a summer knit. This is the Sabai top by Suzanne Muller, knitted in Kremke Morning Salutation, the DK weight, not the Fino. I bought this yarn again at Bendigo, at the Australian Sheep and Wool Show in Bendigo earlier in the year from this Lush Corner. It's a great online shop. Thoroughly recommend you go and give them, have a look at them. They've got lovely things. She sells a lot of cellulose fibres, fair bit of hemp and that kind of thing, and some beautiful accessories. I bought a pair of scissors from her too, a beautiful pair of black Japanese scissors shaped like a swan, or mermaid rather, and they're just gorgeous. I love them too. This knit gets a very high mark because I knitted this top in 3 days. So it was really a pleasure to knit. And I have worn this top also a real lot. So much so that it's been through the washing machine and the dryer so many times it washes like a rag. Some of the colour has faded, but I think that's just added to the charm and the comfort and you know, it's like a flannelette pyjama, you know. It's just been washed and it's soft and it's really comfortable. It's perfect for days when you might have a bit of sunburn on your shoulders, or days where you're going somewhere where you just need something loose and comfortable, and I really love it. And I've mentioned before that I intend in 2025 to make a pair of shorts to match this, so I've got a little matching set. This top is fantastic. Again, the details on it are brilliant. It's beautifully designed. It's a real simple knit, and it's very, very on brand for Morka knits, or rather for Suzanne Muller's style. It's got a real pared back, simple, very minimalist style, and I really like it. As a matter of fact, I'd like to knit more of Suzanne Muller's designs because they are all gorgeous. She actually also designs crochet things too, interestingly. This was a fantastic knit, thoroughly recommend, would make another one. And I've also mentioned before, and I'll mention it again, I think this would make a gorgeous little matching set, that if you made one in an adult size and one in a child size, you could get a little matchy set like mum and bub, which I think would be super cute. This is the Sabai top. I made the one that has zero trim across the front or across the bottom. There are two versions in this pattern. One of them's got a bit of rib. I made it the one that's got nothing because I really wanted that simple, very, very pared back, understated and minimalist silhouette. 100% love, 10 out of 10. Sabai top. These next two are the same, where that I knitted twice, and that this is the basic Boatneck tank from Madison McColl. She's True Summer Knits on YouTube, and she's got a great YouTube channel, and I really enjoy watching her. This is her first pattern design. I'm not sure if you still can, but when it first came out in the last couple of months, you could get this pattern for free. If you go onto Ravelry and have a look at the pattern page, it shows you how you can do that if you want to, or you can give her a few dollars to encourage her to design more. This is, like it says on the tin, a basic boat neck tank, and I knitted one of them in 100% cashmere that I got from Tino. No guarantee that it is cashmere, but it looks like cashmere, feels like cashmere. And I really, really enjoyed this knit as well. This pattern is very well written for, especially since it's her first one, and the softness of the Temu cashmere is second to none. It feels very, very luxurious. When you've got it on, you can't feel it at all. And regardless of how you feel about ordering from Temu, it was cheap and it's beautiful, so there's that. The neckline trim on this does roll slightly, but I really like it. It's a well, does it roll? I don't know. It's a I-cord trim, and it sits beautifully on the end of around the neck of the top. The hem is a fold back hem with a pearl row, which I think gives it a really crisp and store-bought finish. And I did one modification. I did that armhole trim again, the one I was raving on about, that was on the Claire vest. I did that again on both of them. So this one in the Temu cashmere, and then this one cast on almost immediately, having finished that one in Knitting for Olive cotton merino in the colour Dusty Aqua. Again, beautiful knit, and I have literally worn these two tops over and over and over again this spring and heading into summer. Thoroughly recommend Madison McColl's basic boatneck tank. There's the armhole trim again. I did do one slight modification on this one. I did the same trim around the armhole, around the neckline, but instead of, when you fold it over, instead of folding it over on the inside so it became invisible, I folded it over on the outside and allowed you crochet chain it, and I allowed the crochet chain to become visible. It actually, I think, looks really good. Impossible to roll as well this way. I have left the best till last. My very final garment that I knitted in 2024 is my Priscilla cardigan. Now, I made an entire episode about this cardigan last week, so if you're new here, I imagine you saw that episode, so thank you for watching that. I apologise for the bad sound with the background music being too loud, but here it is again, the Priscilla cardigan by Marzena Kolacek, by far the most beautiful thing I have ever knitted and my most favourite project. I am extremely proud of this knit. This was knitted in a combination of Sandnes Garn Sunday in the petite knit colour called Plastic Pink, which doesn't sound very nice, and the matching Sandnes Garn silk mohair. Those yarns aren't very soft. They're non-superwash, kind of almost rustic yarns, but I think that for this kind of pattern where you really do want a crisp stitch definition for the fantastic ornate lace and bobbles and cabling panels, that this yarn was perfect. I absolutely love this project, and if you want to hear more about it, head on over to the previous video. This one, 11 out of 10. So that is it for all the garments that I knitted for 2024. I did also make 2 muscle bra hats that aren't here. One I gave to my dad to go fishing, and one I gave to my daughter's boyfriend, and they have since finished with each other. So they're gone. And then and 4 gnomes that also disappeared as soon as I put them on the kitchen bench when they finished. People came over and snaffled those. And the very last thing I knitted on Christmas Eve was a bow. A December bow by Petite Knits. I knitted that with leftovers of the red fluffy yarn that I made my Oxford jumper from. And I haven't really got much to say about this. You knit a straight piece of knitting and then you put it together like the pattern instructs, and you get this lovely bow. It's really sweet. And then I also did one more tiny thing just at the end, is that I dusted off my Year 9 sewing skills. And that was more than 40 years ago, my Year 9 sewing skills, and I made a dress. Look, I sewed a dress from a pattern that I got from Etsy that was $4.95. How good was that? I had this yarn that I got in, this fabric I bought in Spotlight. I think it's a cotton kind of slub. I think it's a cotton linen blend slub. And the back has got a little bow and an elastic back. And I'm really proud of it. And I'm going out for lunch with my friend Donna today. I'm going to the Camden for lunch, and I might wear this dress. But if I do, I'll have to hem it because I haven't quite finished the hem yet. So that's not a knit, obviously, but it is a make that I did in 2024. Completely new to me. I haven't sewed literally since I was in Year 9. So that was a bit of a challenge, but I did enjoy it. So here we are at the end of 2024. What am I taking with me into 2025 as active whips? I have the Alpenglow blanket from the kit that I bought from Pearl Soho in the linen quill. I'm looking forward to taking that into 2025. I also have cast on my Salty Days sweater in that Nubu yarn, which is entirely unsuitable for the project, but it seems to be going okay, touch wood. And I also have got I haven't swatched for it yet, but I bought this silk at Say Little Hen in Noosaville to make the Milady's dress, which is a massive commitment because that is a very, very fine 4-ply yarn, and the Milady's dress is a midi length complete dress that is not going to be a fast knit. I have abandoned any prospect of making 2 3D socks that actually fit my leg. I've already made 2 3D socks. One of them is too tight around the calf and too big in the foot. The other one I can't get on at all. So I thought I'd cast on for a third to try and Goldilocks a sock out, but really I'm not enjoying it. I'm unlikely to finish them. And the other thing that I'm going to abandon is my husband's Musselburgh hat, which I've gotten this far, but it's too big, and it's made out of the leftover Bendigo Woolen Mill alpaca. I am going to knit him a hat, but I'm just going to find another one. I'm going to rip that back and free up the needle, and I won't be making a Musselburgh hat out of that yarn. So that's it. Everything I knit in 2024. It's the first one of these videos that I've made, and I really did enjoy it. I think I found that creating this channel to chronicle my journey in knitting has been one of the most rewarding things I've ever done. I've been knitting for many years, and I think I've found that creating this channel has really helped me to focus on what are the items that I'm going to really wear and the items that I really do want to knit for my wardrobe. I have been predominantly a process knitter for many, many years, and I hardly wore anything I made up until sort of the last few years, and in particular starting this channel. So I'd like to thank all of you for watching today and for watching any of my previous videos. I'd like to welcome all the new people here, and if you've gotten this far, I'd like to congratulate you on making it to the end, and I hope that you guys have a very, very happy new year, and I'm going to see you in 2025 all fresh and motivated with some proper goals and some plans like we all do at the beginning of the year. So from me to you, take it easy, enjoy your knitting, and thank you so much. See you next year. Bye.